The countdown is on for tariffs set to take effect at midnight tonight. We're talking about 25% tariffs on Canadian and Mexican imports into the United States and another 10% duty on Chinese imports. Eunice Yoon and Courtney Reagan here with more on the fallout. Eunice, we'll start with you in Beijing. What has been the reaction to these additional 10% tariffs, and what do we expect as far as retaliation?
Well, the Chinese have not yet announced any specific countermeasures, but the expectation is that tomorrow, once President Trump's tariffs do take effect here on Tuesday, that the Chinese will move swiftly with countermeasures. In fact, the foreign ministry today reiterated that they would take all necessary measures, and there's also been a hint in the state media that those countermeasures could target U.S. agricultural products. The Global Times, the Communist Party paper, had said that these would include both tariff and non-tariff measures, so possibly a reduction in agricultural purchases. So China is still a major destination for U.S. farm goods. It purchases nearly $30 billion of farm goods. That was in 2024. It's also a big buyer, of course, specifically of grains, so soybeans, corn, as well as sorghum. And this is despite the fact that since 2018, during President Trump's first trade war, the Chinese have been diversifying away from the U.S. when it comes to their agricultural products. We saw at that time that the Chinese had curtailed their U.S. agricultural purchases as a way to retaliate against the U.S., and a lot of farmers were badly hurt. On the Chinese side, you were talking about retail. We spoke in the past couple of days to some manufacturers here, specifically ones who supply to the U.S., and they told us they are feeling numb. And in fact, the tactic at this point is just to push as much of the cost of these tariffs onto their U.S. partners as well as onto U.S. consumers. Guys?
Eunice, appreciate that. We'll talk soon. Eunice Yoon in Beijing. Let's get to Courtney Reagan as well. Talk more about the impact specifically on retail on a week, Courtney, where we will get some retail earnings for sure.
Yes, exactly. And hopefully we'll get a little bit more information. But really, I mean, the fluidity of the tariff talks has retailers and brands sort of workshopping multiple game plans all at the same time. Most seem to have more confidence, at least in their plans to mitigate tariffs on Chinese-made goods. But mitigation for tariffs on Mexican imports, more so than Canada, is more uncertain. So one source I spoke to who imports beans from Mexico for grocers, including Whole Foods, is preparing 9 different scenarios, including possibly shifting production to the United States. Now, most major retailers have been diversifying away from China for years, though some, including Newell Brands, nearshored to Mexico. Now, tariffs on Mexico likely to be painful for a company like Ethan Allen. That makes its upholstery items there. 30% of Boot Barn products are made in China, another 25% in Mexico. And while 80% of Whirlpool's U.S. sold goods are made here in the U.S., the other 20% Mexico and China made. Now, Best Buy's top country of imports, also China and Mexico, 1 and 2. Contour Brands, that, of course, denim parent Lee Wrangler, 25% of its production in Mexico. It puts the unmitigated impact at $50 million this year, but says it can offset the cost, it believes, within 12 to 18 months. Now, the impact of potential retaliatory tariffs, that's even harder to discern. In 10Ks, Columbia, Hasbro, Carter's, among those saying retaliatory tariffs would damage their ability to compete internationally. They're not really providing much more info than that. Now, one source I spoke to who works in Canadian retail thinks if Canada applies retaliatory tariffs, the impact would be devastating for its economy. Apparently, a lot of Canadian consumers that live close to the border often take weekend trips into the United States for grocery shopping. There are already very high levels of tariffs on items like dairy. I was told a block of cheese that may cost us $4 in the U.S. just over the border in Canada is already about $20. Back over to you.
Wow. Okay, Courtney, thank you.